Chatty from Chatty, India's first and only beer podcast. Today I have my very good friend Anu Rao with me, and this is part of Pine podcast series. And she's going to be introducing the topic, and we'll take it up from there. Hi Anu, how are you?
Hi Chatty, how are you too?
I'm good, very good, Babu.
So you want to talk about not all dark beer is stout.
Yeah, that's the topic for today's podcast, and it comes from a little experience that I went through, just a day before, and that's my little trip to the wine store because I want to pick up some real special beers. More importantly, I wanted to pick up some IPAs.
Yeah? All right.
Because Sunday was French Open finals. And Rafa was playing against Djokovic. I very well knew that Rafa is going to win and he's going to get his 13th
I knew
title.
that too. You should have just asked me. It would have saved you the whole process of watching the match.
Must. Next time I'm going to ask you. In fact, I will tell Rafa also not to play. Just to play.
Yeah, I know. Just good. I just know even before he knows that he's going to win.
Absolutely. So I went to this store called Paina in Nerul. It's a nice, plush, new age wine store, alcohol store. And since they have imported beers, they have crafted beers, not just the commercial beers. So I wanted to have IPAs and some stouts. More importantly, IPAs. So I went there and I asked for some IPAs. And speaking of a trip, it also, today is the day when the trip, the power is tripping majorly in Mumbai.
Yeah, Mumbai had a power trip. Yeah, true.
Fortunately, in our place, it's not happening much, so it's good for us. And we might as well wrap up the podcast. You never know what's going to happen. I went there and I asked the attendant out there, can you give me some IPAs? So he didn't have IPAs, so I was a little disappointed. So then I asked him, what else do you have? He told me he's got stouts. I said, great. Because everyone knows.
Anybody who knows Cheers Chatty or has heard the podcast definitely knows that stouts are your favorite.
Absolutely. So I told him, give me what you have. I wanted to see. So he gave me a Dinger Donkel. I hope I pronounced it right. In fact, you know what?
Should I Google it?
Yeah, I did Google it. And, they have a typical way of saying it also. Donkel.
Dinger Donkel.
Okay. So I looked at him. I didn't say anything. And I picked up some other beers as well. I got home. I knew I was going to... have a podcast on this, but I wanted to enjoy the match. I enjoyed the match. I had it. The beer was...
So did you get a stout or what did you get there?
So I actually got a Erdinger Donkel, which is a dark wheat beer.
Okay.
So the point is very simple. Not all dark beers are stouts.
But he recommended that as a stout.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
It's like saying, once upon a time, if it was a chocolate, then it has to be Cadbury. At least during my days in 1940s.
Oh, yeah.
You know how it is. Yeah, so I got home, I enjoyed the match. The beer was absolutely smooth. As smooth as the match was. Rafa just won in 3 straight sets. So I couldn't have asked for more at least. Then, that happened. And it got me thinking, saying that, you might have a great store. The setting must be great, the lighting is great, the experience is fantastic. You have all the imported alcohol and beers. But what about the people who are selling it?
So not educated enough to recommend the right beer for the right customer.
Correct. So, what happens is typically a lot of people are very aware only of the commercial beers like Budweisers and Kingfishers and all that. But it is a trend. It is something, the landscape of the beer ecosystem in India has changed. You have a lot of craft beers, you have a lot of niche beers, and people are not informed, they're not educated about it. So they just pick up and they feel intimidated to even ask.
Correct.
But there are some who know about it. Okay? And what's more important...
But the majority would perhaps learn when they come to a store about what is available and what is a good beer, what is a new craft beer or... I guess the education of a store attendant is very, very crucial here.
Extremely.
To be able to sample new beer, perhaps.
True, because, manufacturers, crafters spend a lot of time, effort creating beautiful beers. And if you can't sell it well, at the end of the day, it is the guy who's sitting out there and who's going to tell you, pick this up, this is good.
Correct.
And a lot of people don't know what they're picking up. And a lot of people are scared, as I said, to even ask what it is. This is, oh, it's a great thing and it's a new thing.
So unless there's been a lot of advertising that's happened, one wouldn't be informed. So at the first, and as compared to being informed at the store level by a person saying, hey, try this beer, this is a stout, or this is a locally brewed stout, or this is a locally brewed IPA.
Yeah.
And educating the customer at that level very quickly. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry about this. Okay. So yeah, that's what happened. And I decided that I should do a podcast on this. Okay. The point is very simple. Please, crafters, manufacturers, make sure that the guy who's selling it at the retail outlet, he knows what he's selling. And it takes very little to do that. Okay. Just have some handouts, have some posters or whatever. Just have a little, workshop.
Part of the training.
Yeah, just
absolutely.
make it part of that, and that should do. So that's not where it really, my story ends. Can I have this, please? Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay. So I thought, why not, enlighten people on what I really drank, and what are dark beers, and where does stout stand out there.
True.
Okay.
So your take for number one, the storekeepers,
Yeah.
is train your staff better.
Yes.
You'll get more customers, you'll get new customers, and you'll get customers to new beer.
True.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And what's your take for the makers? The makers of these, what do you call them? Craft beer brewers, or primarily just manufacturers who are trying different things in a market as growing as Indian market.
Yeah, they have an additional responsibility of telling the people out there that, and educating them. Okay? And because not everyone knows, we are not living in that era where there was just a Fiat and an ambassador.
Yeah, lots of choice now.
There are a lot of choices.
Every day
we are
there's a new
spoiled for
choice.
choices, in fact. Okay? And you're selling all this at a really high price. So what you're selling, make sure there's value for it as well, in terms of imparting knowledge.
Correct. Bring you to that.
So that's where it is. Before we proceed, I just want to take a sip of my beer. Am I allowed to do so, please?
Wow, I'm very gracious.
Thank you. So purely from a layman's perspective,
From a beer drinker's perspective.
and beer drinkers and enthusiast perspective, beer is all about the game of grains. Okay? It has malts, it has barley, it has wheat, it's got oats. And of course, you have the hops and you have the yeast and water that goes into it. But the color of a beer depends on how the grains are roasted. The degree to which it is roasted. The more you roast it, the darker it becomes, the darker the beer is. As simple as that.
Much like coffee.
Absolutely. Actually, that's the next great thing after beer. And there's a lot of coffee in beer too.
Is it?
Yeah. So, especially in dark beers.
Didn't we have one in Gurgaon? A coffee flavored
Yes, we
beer.
did. We went to this place called Cough from the epiglottis. Do you remember? So yeah, that's
I remember actually. There was a coffee flavored dark
beer. It wasn't a stout, and I wanted a stout.
Correct.
But we didn't get one. So yeah, and I made a fuss also.
Yeah, you always do.
You always do.
Always do.
Okay, so I'm going to read out a few notes. I've not memorized it because I'm not a brewer, but I'm an enthusiast. I'm the voice
just
of
want to share.
I want to share. So people need to know what. The darker the roast, the darker the beer, and the results from that.
Right.
Okay. The roast affects the color of the finished beer. It gives it a body. It gives flavors. It also, gives it aromas.
All right.
So it all depends how you use your grains. In what degrees you use it, how you use it, and of course, when it comes to wheat beers, it also has a lot to do with the hops because that's what adds the bitterness to it. Yeah? And of course, there's yeast, which plays a lesser role out there. Yeah?
Okay.
So that's as far as colors of beer goes. And again, I would say just because it's dark doesn't mean it's a stout. Simple. I'm very it's like passing off a butter chicken and calling it a chicken kadai. It's not just because it's got chicken. So there are different ways of doing the same chicken. This the same goes for Maggie as well.
Okay.
So there are different ways of doing it, different ways of cooking it or brewing it. So you just don't say that everything is. You don't
But
generalize.
on a bitterness level, which is the most bitter, or it? Okay, let me rephrase.
Yeah.
Are all stouts bitter?
Not
Or all
necessarily.
dark rums bitter?
Not necessarily. It not like when you say bitter beers, you always think of IPAs.
Okay.
That's what they're known to be, bitter.
Okay.
But stouts, just because they're dark in color, doesn't mean they
Necessarily.
become strong and they
Okay.
become bitter and stuff.
Okay, got it.
It,
Understood.
as I said, it depends on the grains and how you roast them.
Got
Of course,
it.
there are other complexities that also work on them. Okay. So yeah, the next part is, since we're talking about it, we might as well touch upon what are different types of dark beers.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at them, there are dark lagers, there are English porters, there are Munich Dunkel, is the way Google pronunciation says that. And by the way, Dunkel in Germany means
Dark?
means dark.
But never have guessed that.
Okay. And of course, there are dark ales.
Okay.
So these are the different kind of dark beers that you have, and therefore the moral of the story you know by now. Right. Now coming back to what I really had, which is called Erdinger Dunkel, and it's not a stout; it's a dark wheat beer.
All right.
And let me tell you, I didn't sit down to experience what the notes are, what the flavor is, what the aromas is. All that I did was I was enjoying it while I was watching the match,
Mm-hmm.
and it went really smooth. It was very good, and I was happy with it. But having said that, I would like to say, and I've taken this exactly from their website, okay,
Mhm.
copy paste, and I'm going to read that out to you guys as well. And it's very easy to understand. No rocket science out here at all. This elegant wheat beer has a lustrous, deep dark brown appearance in the glass. The first sip reveals a harmonious symphony of carefully selected wheat and barley malts with exquisite Hallertau aroma hops.
Okay.
Again, I hope I've got that right.
That's okay.
The taste buds detect hints of caramel, nuts, and fresh bread. And believe me, when I was watching the match, I didn't feel any of this.
Okay.
An unmistakable top fermenting accent is provided by Erdinger's traditional yeast. Fabulous. Great job done. Served my purpose.
So on a star, on a 5-star, what's your
I'll give it for that
star rating?
Yeah, for that evening as Rafa performed, I'll give it a 5-star rating.
Oh.
Whoever comes there, I've just given them. Okay. So yeah, that's what I had. And since we're speaking about stout as well, we might as well as, I hope the Pioneer guys are listening to it too.
Of course they will. Eventually.
Eventually. If not, I'll go there and then sit down there. Okay, a break please. I'm having a Brewed Dog Punk IPA. It's craving for one, finally got one. Okay.
You want to tell anyone how you came about getting this?
Master. Girl for
We
me.
leave that for another
For another
podcast. Yeah.
Okay, so stouts have been around for ages, centuries. Okay? And before they existed, porters were the ones that they're the descendants of the porter variety of beer. Somewhere along the line, porters got left behind, and stout went ahead. And the whole world knows stout, and more importantly, when you say stout, you only think of Guinness.
Okay.
It's like when you say water, you only think of Bisleri. The guy might be handing out an Aquafina or any of the local other brands, but yeah, that's where Guinness stands. So it was typically brewed by London brewers at one point of time. It was only in the 18th century when brewers went to a series of experiments, developed a stronger, fuller form of the porter, and it is called the stout porter. So it was called the stout porter. Of course, porter went, stout
Stout
came.
stayed.
Okay, as simple as that. And as I told you about the Guinness, it is a creamy, luscious libation drink, and you can't match that, at least. I'm not being biased.
Of course you're being
No, I'm
biased.
not
It
being
is your
biased.
it is your favorite stout.
No.
Of course you're being biased. She's being biased.
Nobody gets close to Guinness. Nobody gets close to stout.
I think you haven't tried enough stout beer to come to that.
Maybe. Okay.
Yeah.
Try me. Okay. Stouts were traditionally the generic term for the strongest and stoutest porters, typically 7 or 8% produced by a brewery.
All right.
Okay. So that's where it is. And if you do notice, there is a widget in Guinness stout cans as well.
Uh-huh.
The little ball that is there. But I'm going to talk about it now. We'll do one
Leave
more
it for
podcast.
another. Yeah, leave it for another time.
So the moral of the story of this is, as again I'm saying it, that dark beers are not stout, and guys,
All dark beer are not stout.
and know what you're selling.
Yeah.
And you need any assistance in terms of communicating it? Cheers, Chatty creative team does that as well.
Yeah, tell us what you think.
Yeah, tell us what you think. If you want anything to add to this, podcast, you're most welcome.
Or you
to
want
do
to
so.
ask us more questions? Please do. She'll answer, not me.
You just sit there and have
I'll
some
just
beer.
sit there and ask you questions.
Yeah, and push me.
Yeah. And tell you how you're biased.
Absolutely. In life. Okay, Babus, that's all that we have today. And please be good to yourselves. Have fun. And
Drink responsibly.
and sell responsibly as well.
Yeah.
And be safe
And happy.
and happy. Hoppy and happy because I'm having a very hoppy beer. And
And
something
it's
else.
in there, your happies.
Oh, yeah. And it's one of their birthdays also today. So,
Oh, Hattu's birthday.
Hathu's birthday.
Hathu's
Yeah,
birthday.
Hathu's birthday.
All right.
Hathuda's birthday.
Okay.
So, this is for you, Babu. Hatuda. And please don't forget to follow us on our social media, our podcast channels. And that's it. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. See you. Cheers.